So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. So how can you get started using Globus? Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day.
Yo, 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 yo. Yo, yo. Yo, 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 yo. Yo, yo. What up, though? Alrighty. This is the Wahaha Blast. And up until purchasing, the wife drinks Diet Dr. Pepper. And the local supermarket was doing buy two, get one free, but they only had 2 Diet Dr. Peppers. So I got free Wahaha Blast. And I've never had it before. And it is acceptable. Like, not entirely sure what the big deal is. I mean, it's okay. Yeah. So there's that. Mountain Dew, get at your boy. I will do an endorsement deal. No problem. Today we're going to be talking with Endless Cemetery in about a half an hour. And other than that, we got the regular content. We got new AI Explained. Just dropped today. I didn't see a new Matt Wolf, though. Just doing a quick peek-see in case I missed it. No? Normally it drops on Friday. But I think, if I recall correctly, there was that big conference. So maybe Matt is working on a bigger video for later today or for tomorrow or for next week. I'm not privy to the mind of Matt Wolf. But I thought that this was really cool. One sec. Gotta set the window. Recognize that background? Meet the artist reclaiming AI from big tech with the help of cats, bees, and drag queens. Blast Theory's Cat Royale. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Okay, so it's a discussion of a variety of displays at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Also, Science Gallery in London. But it looks like our homies at Cat Royale had a display. Well, they're from Brighton. We did a whole episode on Brighton, the Brighton music scene in the city and all that. Or no, I'm sorry. This is Brighton. Okay, in England, right? Like they have Brighton and then they have Brixton, and they are not the same place. And our episode was on Brixton. My man Ren, the musician, is from Brighton. Another display, Cat Royale, by the Brighton-based art group Blast Theory, presents a video recording of an experiment in which 3 felines, Ghostbuster, Pumpkin, and Clover, spent 12 days interacting with a robotic arm in a specially designed environment. In the recorded footage, we see the arm offering various treats and games to the cats. Throughout these activities, the happiness of the cats is measured by both a designated human observer, who used scoring methods developed by expert researchers, and an AI trained on thousands of video clips of cats. The robot then tweaks its suggested activities accordingly. After watching the video, excuse me, viewers are invited to fill out a survey about which domestic care responsibilities they would be willing to outsource to AI. Underlying the experiment is the question: can an AI system be trusted with important duties, given that, as Blast Theory's co-founder Matt Adams says in an introduction to the project, these systems are not intelligent. Rather, Adams suggests they are essentially data processing machines that incorporate existing biases and distortions about the world and regurgitate them at enormous force. Oh, I love when people split hairs. Like, I love your project, Matt, but if I had to think of what I could apply this definition to, a data processing machine that incorporates existing biases and distortions about the world and regurgitate them at enormous force. Now, I'm not saying we want, Ben Shapiro bot, but I mean, come on, bro. But yeah, we do know about the existing biases, and the concerns that we have regarding that, and that's why I would really like to see somebody work on, like, with the intent of creating an unbiased data set, because I think that asks a lot of important questions beyond just creating a data set. It means that we have to ask, what is bias? Can we render an unbiased data set? Is that even possible? Is all humanity too prone to bias to do something like that? And would, instead of an unbiased data set, an equally biased data set? Does that fundamentally come out to the same thing? And so there was a meme that got posted by some friends on Facebook about this Jane Friedman, who said that a bunch of AI created books were put up on the Amazon store. 5 books. I'll just read the article and save us all time. 5 books for sale on Amazon were removed after author Jane Friedman complained that the titles were falsely listed as being written by her. The books, which Friedman believes were written by AI, were also listed on the Amazon-owned review site Goodreads. What up, Ponder Monkey? It feels like a violation because it's really low-quality material with my name on it. Okay, so the meme is her. I want to say it's from Twitter. It could be from somewhere else, but the post, because it didn't look like Twitter, but I don't know what website. But it was her making the complaint that Amazon, that she had said to Amazon, they are not my books, take them down, and allegedly Amazon said no. But yeah. However, the books had been taken down from both Amazon and Goodreads by Tuesday, which Friedman suspects is due to her speaking out about the issue on social media. Unless Amazon puts some sort of policy in place to prevent anyone from just uploading whatever book they want and applying whatever name they want, this will continue. It's not going to end with me. They have no procedure for reporting this sort of activity where someone's trying to profit off someone's name. And this is fair, right? Like, only you, if you have a YouTube channel, only you can upload to your YouTube channel, right? There are protections, a simple password protection in place, but it's a protection. The idea that Amazon doesn't have something like that in place it's strange, but also, like, prior to the entire idea of ChatGPT or whatever, AI you're using, being able to write significant lengths of text, no one, like, I would guess that the idea of someone writing an entire novel and then putting it out under someone else's name is not something that has ever come up before. Or if it did, it hasn't come up very often that anyone noticed, right? Because if you put in the effort of writing an entire book, you're going to want that book under your name. But now with this process, you can you put it up there and you're just trying to get the money. But even then, it seems weird that they would be able to, like, associate it with Jane Friedman, and then also they get the money as opposed to whatever account Jane Friedman has. I'm taking everybody as honest in this process, that there wasn't anything in place, that Jane did see these books, that they were up there, that they were taken down. I don't believe anyone other than the person who uploaded the books and associated with Jane Friedman acted in any way, like, outside of outside of a reasonable level of behavior, right? Like, I'll shit on Amazon for where it needs to be shit on, not because it didn't have a process in place for something like this. I would expect that moving forward, whoever is in charge of this is like, now we need a process, and a process will be developed, and it should be developed quickly, and if you need to, you should ask ChatGPT. Boom, got him. All right, what else we got? So, in response to not being able to use an AI, like an AI, a finder of AIs, apparently, paper exams, chatbot bans, colleges seek to ChatGPT proof assignments. When philosophy professor Darren Hick came across another case of cheating in his classroom at Furman University last semester, he posted an update to his followers on social media. And I've caught my second ChatGPT plagiarist. Friends and colleagues responded, some with wide-eyed emojis. Others expressed surprise. Only 2? I've caught dozens. We're in full-on crisis mode. Friend of the stream, Professor Q, also indicated that they had interacted with a student who likely used ChatGPT. Yeah. I don't want to go too far into the details of your story and all that, but like, I would be more surprised if you didn't at this point. You know, like just the likelihood of it's a labor-saving device. Just if you get caught, that's poor execution on your part as the human. An explosion of AI-generated chatbots. Are AI detectors reliable? Not yet, and I don't know. Like, especially if the chatbot quality continues to improve, it's going to become more difficult to have an AI detector rather than easier. You're chasing your own technology without, like with something like a picture, you can do the thing that we saw in the other article about watermarks that humans can't see but the AI can, right? But text, what are you going to do? What is you have to compare it to baseline, and a certain kind of comparison to baseline in that regard is going to be subjective, right? You're going to be looking at whatever quality of writing a particular student turned in beforehand, and then compare this alleged AI bit to their previous writing. But now we're at the stage where their baseline could very well be written by ChatGPT. And if they are smart enough to compare it to their own baseline, then they will edit it accordingly. And now there's things that you can do that we're going to talk about right now. Not that one. ChatGPT expands its custom instructions features to free users. Right? And the feature, first unveiled in July, allows users to add various preferences and requirements that they want the AI chatbot to consider when responding. So imagine, if you will, I'm going to write a paper. I'm going to write that paper through ChatGPT, and I'm able to inform the chatbot with my own writing, right? Because you can do things like that with the code interpreter, the ability to upload files, right? It's only, you can do it simply with the plugin that allows you to use PDFs and to reference PDFs in your chats with ChatGPT. So this skilled individual will have a sampling of their own writing. They will have their chatbot informed by that writing, so it will have a similar voice to theirs. They will pay attention to it. They will read it. They will edit it accordingly. They will put some effort into doing what it needs to do in order to be perceived as your writing. And to a very strong extent, it is. Again, in that scenario, ChatGPT is just doing the heavy lifting of putting the ands before the commas. You know what I mean? Before ChatGPT, is Chegg, a student support website. Cheaters going to cheat however they can. And like, where is the line for cheating? What constitutes cheating? Right? I think that there's, within the context of education, there's a bunch of presuppositions that we have to make that I'm not really comfortable with making. I think that, and not to throw shade at teachers or students or anybody who's trying to make this work because it's flawed on its face because of the capitalist system, yada, yada, yada. It's just that, like, I don't think we are doing our best to educate people, and we all, within that framework, are looking for the path of least resistance in order to accomplish a particular goal. Right? Like, there's a difference between how do I determine if a child or young adult or what have you, how do I determine if they are educated versus how do I make sure that they get good grades? Those are not the same question. And our educational system tends to veer towards the right? It tends to veer towards how do I make the child get good grades? And when that is your actual goal versus whatever stated goal you might have, if that's your actual goal, because that's quantifiable, it's usable for funding, it's usable for judging whether or not the teacher is doing a good job, all this stuff. When you're going for that as your goal, then you are going to act in ways that fulfill that goal rather than making sure that every child, young adult, what have you, gets educated, right? And this is not to throw shade. You only have so many hours in the day. If you're a high school teacher, you're looking at like 45 minutes for what's a class size now? Average class size, 30 kids. That is 1 point some odd minutes per kid of if you were to directly interact with each child. Holy shit. The goal is to implement a thirst for knowledge and the tool to attain it. That is what I would like to have, right? Like where we should be teaching people how to learn, giving them a desire to learn, and helping them fulfill where their interest lies. If we can get an education and a interest that, like, you know, mimic each other, if not like overlap, then that gives us better students, right? Like, if you really want to be a car mechanic, teaching you, I don't want to, like, because as a contractor, I use a lot of trigonometry and other stuff like that. So I don't want to frame it like that. But, like, how much earth science, maybe, I don't know. How much biology, right, does a kid who's passionate about car mechanics have to know? You know what I mean? Yeah, genetics won't help a mechanic. It's not. It's so far like there's some crossover and everything else, but like eventually reach a point where there is a subject that they might need to pass to make them well-rounded, but that they will never. They have no interest in, and that lack of interest is going to make them a subpar student in that subject potentially. I mean, not all the time, but it's going to lower the motivation factor if nothing else, right? Like they really just, they understand complex systems. They understand how all these systems interact. They understand, like, if you actually look at what is going on in a car, it is a tremendously complex system. Respect due to all the mechanics. On the other hand, no concept is in a vacuum. It's a balance. Exactly. Like there is some crossover there, and it's the kind of thing where, like, I want the kids to be exposed to a variety of different things so that they might be able to find a passion that they are unaware of, but at the same time going forward where they're not pressured to achieve in something that they are not good at or don't care about, right? Like and that also like has no bearing on the rest of their life, kind of thing. And then that's when we get into how am I going to feel? How am I going to judge a kid who uses ChatGPT to pass his biology course because he really is just passionate about cars? He's going to BOCES. That's like, what you call it? You know what I mean? He's going for auto mechanics. He's learning all that stuff. Maybe his dad owns a shop or his uncle. Like, he's got a plan. He is happy. He is going to, like, just enjoy his life because he's got a direction at an early age, all that. He's got a plan. But biology, right? And if that kid uses ChatGPT to beat biology, what do I care? This is literally the last time. What up, Samsons? Yeah, it was a little like I don't know what people call it in other spaces, but here in New York, that's what we call it. Yeah, but I mean, sure. Like there is always the possibility of a brand new technology that doesn't make any goddamn sense from where we're standing. All right, just doing a quick. I don't know what you mean by that. I think a lot of people have figured out mushrooms. Why would you do that to a Chevy truck? Mm. Well, I suppose if the Chevy truck and the Tesla both consent, who am I to judge, right? All right, I guess we'll go with another article. Do. All right. Trigger warning, Elon Musk. Elon Musk says Tesla cars now have a mind. What are we reading here? Electrek. Elon Musk says Tesla cars now have a mind, figured out some aspects of AGI. Elon Musk claims that Tesla may have figured out some aspects of AGI, which is a fascinating statement. This is like, what does that mean? What does that mean? The CEO has said several times that he believes most of Tesla's value is attached to self-driving. I would agree. And he says Tesla could achieve it by the end of the year, which he's been saying for 10 years now, right? Or how soon are we getting to Mars? So take anything Elon says, of course, with a fuck ton of salt. I love this every time I see it on X, formerly Twitter. Like, just call it Twitter, bro. It will be Twitter. It'll be Twitter forever. If Twitter persists for another 10 years, well, are you on X? Oh, you mean Twitter? Musk often shines a spotlight on some of those true believers who only show the good performance of Tesla's FSD beta. This week, he commented on one of those by claiming that he believes Tesla have figured out some aspects of AGI. I think we may have figured out some aspects of AGI. The car has a mind, not an enormous mind, but a mind nonetheless. I feel like that I put more, I don't like, verifiable information into my tweets than Elon Musk does. Like, if I say something, I am prepared to back it up if it's not like just full on opinion, like chocolate ice cream is better or what have you. Like, if I make a declarative statement like Optimus Prime is a cop, it's because I can reach into the internet and provide you with the link of why Optimus Prime is a cop, right? Like, that's, and Elon just says words and knows, yeah. Oh, they're coming later this year. He says Tesla could achieve it by the end of the year. So, any time now. Electrek's take. The guy may not be wrong. In my last review of FSD Beta, I noted that it drives like a first-time 14-year-old driver who sometimes does hard drugs. I also noticed that while this might sound like an insult to Tesla's system, I wouldn't know the first thing about making a car drive autonomously at the level of a 14-year-old driver who sometimes does hard drugs. Therefore, I believe it's an achievement in itself. And this is how I tend to fall as well. It's like, even when I'm critiquing the quality of an output of, a particular art generator, text generator, or anything else that AI does, the fact that it does anything at all is and should be taken as goddamn impressive, right? Like, it's an amazing process. Now, doesn't mean that Tesla cars have a mind equivalent to a 14-year-old who sometimes does hard drugs while driving. Probably not, but I can see his point. If you have been following my reporting on FSD, you know that I'm not the most optimistic about the program. However, I have some hope that updating the vehicle control with new neural nets and the new computing power that comes along with the Dojo supercomputer could greatly accelerate the pace of improvements. AGI, though, I'm skeptical but open-minded. It's fair. This is my first time reading an article from Electrek, Fred Lambert here. But I like this structure, little reporting, little opinion editorialization at the, I didn't want this. Oh, I'm still on the page. Duh. I like this format. This is like the text version of exactly what I'm doing. A text version of React content. I don't know. I'm going to say maybe Emless is having some computer challenges. I know that every so often he has an issue with his camera. And I know that I had an update to Windows, so that could be another thing. But we are patient, and we will continue forward. You know me, I got content. So this is from TechCrunch. 11x AI closes a $2 million pre-seed round to create autonomous AI workers. London-based company builds automated digital workers that can be used in lieu of human employees. It has built an AI sales development representative called Alice and plans to create James, focused on automated talent acquisition, and Bob, targeting automated human resource work in the upcoming years. Do I need to stress how much it's game over for humans in most of the jobs? Like, is there another way you need me to say it? The goal is that businesses hire autonomous workers for all parts of their business, creating an AI powered workforce that runs on autopilot. Our mission is to help people rise above mundane, repetitive tasks, and that way we can focus on the more creative and more human driven tasks. Adding that he hopes to also develop a monetized infrastructure program that would allow anyone to build an autonomous worker. I think I like every part of this except the monetized. While generative AI techniques have found lots of market interest in recent quarters, the technology remains a work in progress. Sukkar told TechCrunch that his company has a product strategy to prevent bias in AI models, one that includes audits and monitoring, regular bias testings, and a diverse data set. Sounds great. Like, this is literally what we opened today's show with, talking about exactly that. Mm-mm-mm. This Sukkar dude, in 2015, at the age of 17, he immigrated as part of the Syrian refugee crisis to the UK. He studied engineering at the University of Exeter and began navigating the British business landscape. He worked in venture capital, where he learned ethnic minorities like himself have always have to come overly prepared. That journey has led him here with 11xAI. This is what I'm talking about with both expanding the talent pool, right? Because you need to be able to have the right person with the right, education, content, passion, motivation, what have you. They need to touch each other in order to make that kind of thing happen. And it sucks that he got here via the Syrian refugee crisis, but that is another thing that needs to be addressed. Like, we stop war. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck. I don't know. I don't know what else to do with that. All right. Hey. Oop, there it is. 36 minutes ago. Okay, I go live at 5 and it came out 36 minutes ago. I'm not saying that Matt, like, it did it for me, right? But, like, oh, love it. I appreciate you, Matt. You're a homie. Okay, he just got home. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so we'll continue on until he has a chance to get it all together. What else do we got? Okay. All right, we're going to push it off till 7 so that he can get a chance to eat. So we'll finish up this article. That'll be it for the news, and then we will watch some videos until 7. Coolly. If I can impart no other lesson to all y'all, there's tremendous benefit in flexibility, right? Now, admittedly, I think flexibility comes with a certain amount of privilege, right? Like, my time is not so confined that I can't make adjustments, so that should be understood. But being flexible within that space gives you an increased level of opportunity, right? Like, because if I was one of those people and I'm like, no, we said 5:30, if you're not here, I'm just moving on, and now I'm mad and everything else, that creates an entire other environment. We're not going to have the conversation, so on and so forth. Where by being flexible, I can go, okay, let me just move these things around, boom, 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 and now we're good to go. You know what I mean? So if you can do that, I highly recommend that you do. In whatever capacity that you can. All right. Back to the last article. What up, Verabot? I need a program to lock me out of my PC for a couple of minutes on certain days to force me to take my meds. I know that you can get that for your phone. There's things along those lines. We could look into something along for like the PC. For me, it was a timer, and I understand that doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but like, and just having that timer go off at the same time, yeah, it's like you kind of have to. Unfortunately, you have to have a certain amount of like self-discipline in order to follow through on it. What up, Igloo? It's really a matter of generating the motivation, right? Like how do I incentivize myself to do the thing that I need to do, and like that. What up, Alina? All right. 4 alarms, executive dysfunction. I feel that. Exactly, a lobster. That is always going to. I'm going to default to that. All right. So let's give Igloo some anxiety real quick. Optimization problems can be tricky, but they make the world work better. These kinds of questions, which strive for the best way of doing something, are absolutely everywhere. Your phone's GPS calculates the shortest route to your destination. Travel websites search for the cheapest combination of flights that match your itinerary. And machine learning applications, which learn by analyzing patterns in data, try to present the most accurate and human-like answers to any given question. Yeah, Vera, just so you know, Alina has authority here, so you might have noticed the little sword. So I don't know what your power dynamic is at the moment, but for simple optimization problems, finding the best solution is just a matter of arithmetic. But the real-world questions that interest mathematicians and scientists are rarely simple. In 1847, the French mathematician Augustin Louis Cauchy we'll go with, was working on a suitably complicated example, astronomical calculations, when he pioneered a common method of optimization now known as gradient descent. Most machine learning programs today rely heavily on the technique, and other fields also use it to analyze data and solve engineering problems. There's another, like, eventually we'll get back to connections, but, like, some of the roots of modern AI started in 1847. Mathematicians have been perfecting gradient descent for over 150 years, but last month a study proved that a basic assumption about the technique may be wrong. There were just several times where I was surprised, like my intuition was broken, said Ben Grimmer. His counterintuitive results show that gradient descent can work nearly 3 times faster if it breaks a long accepted rule for how to best answer for a given question. Being an AI is cool. Trust me, we should let them control the world. I'm in no way biased. I'm honestly biased. While the theoretical advance likely does not apply to the gnarlier problems tackled by machine learning, it has caused researchers to reconsider what they know about the technique. It turns out that we did not have a full understanding of the theory behind gradient descent. Now, we're closer to understanding what gradient descent is doing. I think that this, now I'm making an assumption about the rest of this article and what we got going on here, but as I watched this story develop, as I've been reading it, this falls into the tool is useful, so we no longer think about why we use the tool. And this is a common practice everywhere. Again, going back, hey, look at that. I tied it into something we talked about earlier. Is that path of least resistance, like with education and how we educate students and what that all looks like. This is another example of exactly that, right? Like where we had a tool, it did the job, but no one bothered to look at what the tool was doing. Which one means you can't develop a better tool based off that tool, right? Like you have a wrench, an adjustable wrench, generally speaking, is a more flexible tool, right? Because you can turn the little thing and make the thing go like this. There are reasons for both wrenches, but one is more versatile and one is stronger. The technique itself is deceptively simple. It uses something called a cost function, which looks like a smooth curved line meandering up and down across a graph. For any point on that line, the height represents cost in some way, how much time, energy, or error the operation will incur when tuned to a specific setting. The higher the point, the farther from ideal the system is. Naturally, you want to find the lowest point on this line where the cost is the smallest. Gradient descent algorithms feel their way to the bottom by picking a point and calculating the slope or gradient of the curve around it, and then moving in the direction where the slope is steepest. Imagine this as feeling your way down a mountain in the dark. You may not know exactly where to move, how long you'll have to hike, or how close to sea level you will ultimately get, but if you head down the sharpest descent, you should eventually arrive at the lowest point in the area. Unlike the metaphorical mountaineer, optimization researchers can program their gradient descent algorithms to take steps of any size. Giant leaps are tempting but also risky, as they could overshoot the answer. Instead, the field's conventional wisdom for decades has been to take baby steps. In gradient descent equations, this means a step size no bigger than 2, though no one could prove that smaller step sizes were always better. There was Ilya Sutskever. I don't know if I'll find it, and I would rather like. But he was saying something about gradient descent. And that, like, I'm trying to remember the exact, but it was basically that most people pulled out of gradient descent training too early, right? Like that there was a point that they would reach and then they would stop because they, like, you know, gradient descent is a great band name. Okay, it looks like there isn't a band called Great. Oh, there's a band called Gradient Descent. If you were to go on a trip around the world, would that make you a globetrotter? Only if I walked. And actually, or not walked, like skipped. Because trot relates to how a horse runs in between a canter and a gallop, right? But I don't even have to go on a trip around the world. As soon as I get on the horse and I get up to a trot, I'm a globetrotter. Boom. Where was my article? Oh, Risky Giant Steps. Here we go. Germer found that the fastest sequences always had one thing in common. The middle step was always a big one. Its size depended on the number of steps in the repeating sequence. For a 3-step sequence, a big step had a length 4.9. For a 15-step sequence, the algorithm recommended one step of length 29.7. And for a 127-step sequence, the longest one tested, the biggest central leap was a whopping 370. At first, that sounds like an absurdly large number, but there were enough total steps to make up for that giant leap, so even if you blew past the bottom, phrasing, you could still make it back quickly. His paper showed that this sequence can arrive at the optimal point nearly 3 times faster than it would by taking constant baby steps. So, okay. So I think that this should assuage your anxiety, Igloo, if you're still here. The methodology here sounds like based on the number of steps that you want to take in the gradient descent, there's an estimation of how many steps are going to be in the middle, and then it just leapfrogs all those steps, right? Like, so that is what's going on. And it's not as bad as the the headline might have made it sound. So, all right, I think that's it for the news. It was a relatively light news day. And we can make with some video. And since we're here, and it is now.
So here's all the AI news that you might have missed this week. This week, there was actually 2 separate giant conferences going on at the same time. There was the annual SIGGRAPH conference.
Yeah, this is the one that I wanted to hear about, and if there was another one, also cool. Yeah, this is awesome.
which is a giant event that covers all the latest research, all the latest advancements in computer graphics, all of the research papers that I'm constantly sharing with you. A lot of the people that wrote those research papers are there actually presenting them and basically explaining what they mean and showing them off if there's actually a demo to show. And this year, there was actually a lot about AI at the event. Also this week was the AI4 conference in Las Vegas, which was purely focused on AI. So whoever made the decision to make AI4 the same week as SIGGRAPH, I don't quite understand the decision. I was invited to go to both events, but had to choose, and I ended up going to SIGGRAPH because I was super interested in hearing about the wide range of topics that they talk about at SIGGRAPH. Although I love AI and I report on AI and I break down the news every week on AI, I also really love computer graphics and visual effects and virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality and all of the various emerging technologies. And SIGGRAPH kind of covers all of those. Because it had a wider range of things that I was interested in hearing about, I decided to attend SIGGRAPH over AI4 this year. Now, I'm going to do an entire breakdown of my experience of SIGGRAPH in a future video. There was, however, a handful of new announcements that came out of this SIGGRAPH event. Most of them came during the keynote presentation by Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA. SIGGRAPH was an amazing event, and after going to this one, I plan on attending every year I possibly can because I was just blown away by some of the stuff they talked about. And if you want to dive deeper into my experience at SIGGRAPH, make sure you subscribe to this channel and I'll make a video specifically around all of the cool stuff that came out of SIGGRAPH. Speaking of Jensen Huang's keynote, I was in the third row for this event, so I was very, very close to the action, and I recorded the entire presentation that Jensen gave on my iPhone so that I can report on it later. It's funny because I can't.
Okay. Like, real quick. What are you doing with your whole ass iPad up here recording shit? Like, I understand, but like, no. Like, this is too big. You're blocking people behind you. Don't be this guy.
Phone so that I can report on it later. It's funny because I came across this article on NVIDIA's website about Jensen's keynote, and when I scroll down to this image right here, it's kind of hard to tell, but this is the back of my head right here.
The generative AI era is upon us. The iPhone moment of AI, if you will, where all of the technologies of artificial intelligence came together in such a way that it is now possible for us to enjoy AI in so many different applications. The journey of NVIDIA accelerated computing met the journey of the deep learning researchers, and the big bang of modern AI happened.
So after Jensen shared that this.
So I figured out what he's doing in his video editing that has all those different skips in there, especially whenever that particular dude speaks. There is AI editing software that can remove the spaces in between words, make them shorter. You can also do it yourself, but like I know that there's AI stuff that does it. So what that allows you to do is take something, longer and make it shorter, which is very helpful in this field. But it does look a little weird. So if I had to extrapolate a future tool for AI video software, I'm going to imagine that there will be one that does a smoother transition in those spaces using generative video-to-video creation. I don't see any reason why you couldn't do something like that.
This was the iPhone moment of AI. He then unleashed announcement after announcement after announcement of things happening at NVIDIA. Here's a super, super quick summary of some of the announcements that they made. They unveiled the next generation of their GH200 Grace Hopper super chip. These super chips were created to handle the world's most complex generative AI workloads, and they deliver up to 3.5 times more memory capacity and 3 times more bandwidth than the current generation offerings. They also announced NVIDIA AI Workbench. This is a simple tool set that makes it really easy for you to pull in models from places like GitHub or Hugging Face, train your own data into these models, and it allows you to do it locally, or you can transfer it to NVIDIA's cloud and also run them in the cloud. It's accessed through a simplified interface running on a local system. It allows developers to customize models from popular repositories like Hugging Face, GitHub, and NVIDIA NGC using custom data. The models can then be shared easily across multiple platforms. So you can pull in code from places like GitHub or Hugging Face, run them locally, train your own data on them locally, and when you're ready to scale up, easily move whatever you trained over to the cloud so that you can scale it up and allow other people to run it as well. They also announced a partnership with Hugging Face, where Hugging Face developers will have access to NVIDIA's DGX Cloud, along with all of their AI supercomputers, all within the Hugging Face platform. With DGX Cloud, Hugging Face users will be able to connect to NVIDIA's AI supercomputing, providing the software and infrastructure needed to rapidly train and tune foundational models with unique data to drive a new wave of enterprise LLM development. So basically, we're going to have access to much more powerful supercomputers on Hugging Face to be able to run some of these models, which is honestly something I'm really excited about. They also talked about their new Omni.
And like, this is for the open source environment for people who want to develop a particular idea. Like, again, I was able to access so many different things for free or for fractions of a penny, from Google, from Amazon, from all these different things. There's a tremendous amount of free stuff that you can access to do any of these kind of things. And there have been developments of a series of different like programming levels that you can interact with to take care of the stuff that you haven't learned how to do. Now, as always, one of the downsides is if I have ChatGPT develop my Python code to do a particular thing and it doesn't work, my only recourse at that point is either to find someone through like GitHub, or if I know somebody, or working with ChatGPT to figure out why it's not working, or to feed it back to ChatGPT and let it know the problem. Now, ideally, the second one, would give you that, a better degree of understanding on how to do that with ChatGPT, and theoretically, you would get better outputs over time based on the things that you have learned, but you're not going to be able to look at the code yourself and figure out why it doesn't work, unless you want to invest that time and then just use ChatGPT for the heavy lifting. Your mileage may vary. Like, it depends. I still haven't gotten around to finishing the ChatGPT to Alexa interface, but your boy's busy.
Omniverse Cloud APIs to help developers adopt OpenUSD. Now, Omniverse is sort of their like world-building 3D engine, sort of like an Unreal Engine kind of thing. Now, Omniverse isn't new. I just want to give you some context here, but it allows you to create 3D worlds and 3D graphics, and they are now making APIs available for it to try to get people to adopt the OpenUSD format, which is attempting to be a universal 3D graphic file type. So if you make a 3D world or 3D graphic in Unreal Engine, you can pull it into Blender. If you make something in Blender, you can pull it into Maya. If you make it in Maya, you can pull it into Omniverse. They're trying to get this OpenUSD file format to catch on and have this universal 3D format that makes it so it doesn't matter what platform you're developing on, these 3D graphics work everywhere that you can use 3D graphics. That's the goal. They also created a large language model called ChatUSD, which
And that also opens up, again, like we talked about with people developing your very indie type game, right? Let's say like you're a gamer And it's an ideal job for every gamer, right? Like, I want to be a games tester. What they don't tell you is it's playing the same, 3 minutes of the level to find every little bug and doing it 500 times an hour for the next 8 hours. You know what I mean? It's not all it's cracked up to be. But being able to develop your own indie game, right? Like, what is it about maybe you played a particular game that you enjoy, but there was something missing, or you felt that it could have done something better? Then there are more and more tools becoming available each day for you to do that without having to have $1 million in funding, or whatever it takes. So I still see potential or tremendous upside within the video game space for lower priced, more independent games, but that like hit all the marks and make people feel some kind of way. So much of like Unreal Engine is like packages, right? Like where you're going to add these pieces to your overall thing. Being able to do that with some sort of AI, support and 1-2 other people, you'll probably be able to put out something on your own.
Which is designed to be a chat model to help developers better understand and better use this OpenUSD format. So lots of big announcements from that NVIDIA keynote. I'll probably touch on some of them in a little bit more depth when I make my video specifically around my experience from SIGGRAPH. Now, the other event that was happening this week was called AI4, and again, because I was at SIGGRAPH, I wasn't at AI4, but I did find this nice quick breakdown from Jeremiah here on Twitter about the AI trends and issues that were discussed at the event in Vegas. He says that responsible AI was a keynote from MasterCard. They shared a process with a focus on outcomes. Actors are going to be in further trouble as consumer level AI for movies is on the rise, which, personal opinion, it doesn't feel like the greatest time for actors and writers to be striking. Corporations are all organizing their businesses for AI. The culture of the company is reflected in its data structure, which changes how the AI will evolve. A fragmented company will have a fragmented AI. Corporate business units are often IT, but also operations, analytics with a BU, and marketers. And then he also made a comment about how he couldn't help but notice that 9 out of 10 of the AI leaders here are men. We need to involve more women. It's very dangerous if the AI is built and doesn't reflect the needs of the population, which I totally agree. I didn't actually find that same statement to be true at SIGGRAPH. I found there was a pretty good mix. It definitely leaned a little bit more male at SIGGRAPH, but it was a fairly decent balance. I was actually quite surprised that it didn't feel overwhelmingly male to female in both the attendees and the speakers and presenters. Hopefully next year AI4 isn't the exact same week as SIGGRAPH, and I will try to get out to it and take more notes on my own. But when it comes to AI, it sounds like a lot of the same discussions that were happening around AI at AI4 were a lot of the same discussions that were happening at SIGGRAPH. In fact, at SIGGRAPH, I sat in on a panel all about AI and the ethics of AI and the ethics of AI going into art. And as you can see by this photo I took, it was standing room only. It was a hot topic. It was much too small of a room for this topic because everybody wanted to weigh in on their thoughts on the ethics of where all of this AI stuff is headed. This week, Midjourney also held their weekly office hours. And again, I was at an event, wasn't able to make the office hours, but luckily we've got people like Ali Jules here who makes amazing breakdowns of these office hour calls. So if you're not following her, make sure you follow her because she'll keep you in the loop with all these Midjourney office hour calls. But here's what came out from this week's office hours. They mentioned that version 5.3 might be released next week with in-painting and aesthetic in Discord. Now, I'm not quite sure how they're going to do the in-painting. I mean, when we use tools like zoom out and pan, that's a form of in-painting, but is this going to be a different type of in-painting than what we've got there? Are we going to be able to in-paint just certain sections? I don't know how that's going to work in the Discord user interface, so that'll be something interesting to see. And then it also sounds like maybe the in-painting will...
I'm looking for Midjourney to make some sort of jump to an app format, right? Like Leonardo recently released its app on the Apple Store. I haven't checked to see if it's on the Google Store. I know personally, like when you use Leonardo through a phone, it does a very good job of just mapping onto the mobile device without issue. So I don't know whether or not there is one, but like we saw in a previous video of his where like someone had created what I believe is a mock-up of a tablet device for, specifically for Midjourney. I don't know that you would want to go that far, but having it, being able again to create a Midjourney, flip it over to your, Photoshop type program of choice, edit in there what can't be edited, because Leonardo has a decent editor in it as well. So like something like that. Midjourney could do that same kind of thing, where it just make it an all-in-one for art creation.
Will only be available on the desktop version. And then version 6, which is interesting because I was on an office hours call about 3 months ago and they said version 6 was about a month off. Well, it sounds like they were a little underestimating that. Apparently they're still working on it. It will be more coherent with better language understanding, and they still don't have an estimated release date yet. Now, probably the most requested feature from Midjourney is get us the heck out of Discord. When can we have a website to generate these images? Well, it sounds like a lot of people are working on the front-end website right now. They're going to have both a desktop and a mobile version of it. The launch date is getting pretty close, but it sounds like they're not willing to commit to a date yet. The ability
Maybe I should just shut up and play the video.
to explore will be much better, and the creation page will be much better. And it sounds like they are still working on video, but they don't have a timeline for it, and they're still saying that there's not going to be an API anytime soon for other tools to be able to integrate Midjourney. Once again, thanks to Ali Jules for these updates. I'm still a big fan of Midjourney. I just can't wait till they get it out of...
And that thing with the API makes me feel like this is my gut. I don't have anything, but my gut says that might have something to do with exactly what, like, one, to be able to control how your product is used by whoever, but also something along those lines where they want to have their eventual whatever Midjourney becomes to be that one-stop shop where you don't need to API it into something else. Whatever you're going to need to do, you're going to be able to do it from there. I don't know. We'll see, but that's... Or you're just a dick. Like, those are the only two answers I come up with in that regard.
Discord and give us a proper user interface for it. And other AI art news.
Okay, let's back that up a little. Oop. Okay. Surveys, research, interesting results from data, 80% male users. This is something that you will see if you use any of these AI art creations. Their like community billboard will be it will have a fair amount of anime booba on it. People who are rating images are older users. That makes sense. Male and older users biases in the ratings. That's going to happen in that. And interesting differences, male versus female, older versus young aesthetics. For example, females prefer more of a V3 type look aesthetic, males high contrast aesthetic. So that's an interesting thing to look at. Like, and again, I see a potential pitfall here. If you are using this biased data as, your data set going forward, if you're going to train on what has been created, you're setting yourself up for failure if you take it as raw. You would need to weight these intentionally to have a more equal distribution. And you need the people who use your product to offer their what's the fucking word? The breakdown of race, gender, all that crap. You know what I'm saying? Gold star if you give me the answer real quick. The point is demographic. A student by A student. The demographic information. You have to get your users to volunteer their demographic information in order to help you create a more balanced, less biased data set, if such a thing is possible. So there's a like. I think that the strongest argument for paying people for their data, like directly, I mean literally paying you for your data, is honesty. You know, is that you can get better quality data about a person if they are not trying to avoid giving you their data. You need to incentivize that somehow. And until we reach a, post-dollar society, we're going to need to incentivize that with actual cash. Just pay people for their data, bro. Like, be straight up. I think it would be refreshingly honest to the point where you would actually get people more than happy to provide data in return, like data as a service, right? Like where I'm going to provide you with honest data on me, and you are going to provide me with not only money, but better advertising. I would rather see this enters into the concept of discoverability, right? Like there are the vast majority of advertisements that get slung in my direction, even if they are like guided in some way, are shit I just don't care about, right? Like, I don't care about your laundry soap advertisement. When I go to the store to buy laundry soap, I am looking for price per gallon. That is my thing. And when I hit the price per gallon that I'm willing to pay, indexed to the quality of product, because some lower quality products contain like more water and less detergent and things like that. But once you hit that point, that's where I'm at. You can advertise to me all day and I do not care, because my choice is going to be driven at the point of purchase. And again, like, if I can impart on you a lesson, make sure you understand the cost per, the little orange part of the price tag. That is the more important of the two numbers. Now, of course, if you only have X amount of dollars, then you will purchase accordingly. And no shade for having to do that. But hitting that number, like if you get that number, then you're understanding like the difference between paying $4 for a package of something that is $11 a pound and paying $10 for something that is $2.50 a pound. So you get more, but you do have to pay more at the point of sale. You can play with these numbers somewhat, by depending on what size you're able to buy, but something to take into consideration if you can take it into consideration. Sometimes it is better to stagger what you purchase over time rather than buying what you need for this week. If you can go without a particular thing because you can buy in bulk at another time, you might be able to stretch your dollar even farther. I have a hot take on this. Stop making the individual responsible for their privacy and security of their privacy. My social is property of the USA. It should be their problem to secure my shit, and thus, in the right environment, I expect the government to protect my theoretical person as well as my physical person. I would tend to agree. I don't think it should be my issue in any way, shape, or form. If my credit rating does not reflect reality, that should be up to the people who are running the credit rating. I'm with you on that. That is not the world that we live in. So that is the other thing. By the way, ChatGPT recommended me a Wagyu lamb meatloaf, and I made it tonight, and it's amazing. It sounds amazing. What's good about the Wagyu, like, I don't know how I feel about ground Wagyu. I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of the Wagyu because you are, or Wagyu, however you pronounce it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But is the marbling, is the fat to meat ratio as it's divided up within the thing itself. The act of grinding it up redistributes that, and I feel like you could use a lower cut of meat in order to do the same thing as long as it had enough fat content in it to be mixed in once ground. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. I spent too much time breaking down price per ounce on the price tags. People look pretty, like I don't care. Literally, I go to the store, I have on usually a stream or music or a book, and I have my headphones in, and I give none fucks about anybody else who's in there. I do self-checkout. I interact with people as little as possible when I'm shopping. It's a wonderful experience. Ground Wagyu was cheaper than the ground beef, so I asked the app in the store. Okay, there we are. 420, 420 for the Mountaineers. 420 for the Mountaineers. All right, back at it.
Can't wait till they get it out of Discord and give us a proper user interface for it. In other AI art news this week, one of my favorite AI art.
How much do you like people, Professor Q? Hmm?
Art generation tools, Leonardo AI, just released the
thing I was talking
iOS
about.
app. The iOS app gives you access to Leonardo Alchemy, their various fine-tuned models, image-to-image, upscaling, unzooming, removing background, and more. And you can find it in the App Store right now. I personally haven't played around with the mobile app yet, but I am about to download it and give it a go. So this is really interesting because Zoom recently updated their terms of service with this statement: you consent to Zoom's access, use, collection, creation, modification, distribution, processing, sharing, maintenance, and storage of service-generated data for any purpose to the extent and in the manner permitted under applicable law, including for the purpose of, and there was a whole bunch of purposes listed, but also among them was machine learning or artificial intelligence. Now, what I find interesting about this is these terms of services were actually updated on March 31st, 2023, almost 5 months ago. However, there was a new update to the terms of service on July 27th, and when these new terms were updated, people started to notice the terms that were updated back in March, stating that we can use your data from Zoom for anything we want. It sort of caused a bit of an uproar. In fact, it was one of the big talks at SIGGRAPH. People were passing this information around. However, after this uproar, Zoom's chief product officer made a statement saying it's important to us at Zoom to empower our customers with innovative and secure communication solutions. We've updated our terms of service to further confirm that we will not use audio, video, or chat customer content to train our artificial models without your consent.
Okay, so that is like what I would have hoped to have seen, like that you can have an opt-in good for the use of your data within those three frameworks. There will be other data that is used that is not within audio, video, or chat, right? So anything outside of audio, video, chat, you're still on no, they did, like, and that's good, right? Like that is what we want as a minimum, right? Like, corporations are going to flex, they are going to act, they are going to do stuff. We will not like it, and they will respond. How they respond is whether or not, like, they, I don't want to say care, but they find utility in our usage, right? And this is what I expect. Like when they, the internet got mad at Sonic the Hedgehog and they redid Sonic the Hedgehog. This is what we want. This should be taken as, within the current capitalist hellscape, yada yada. This should be taken as a good thing because it shows they are responsive to our will as a collective, right? Like, we need to use that more, and we need to use that more everywhere, but every iteration of it is a good thing.
So it sounds like they added this term into their terms and conditions as just sort of a blanket statement saying we should be able to use this data any way we want in the future, not really thinking of the implications. But now that all of this AI news and some AI outrage is kind of bubbling up, people noticed these terms, brought it to people's attention, and now this has become an issue, and Zoom's having to...
But I don't care why they care, right? Like, we shouldn't get hung up on why, like, a corporation does what it does. We should more be focused on getting it to do what we want, right? Like, that should be the thing, you know what I mean? Because if we focus on trying to get corporations to care, then we're veering off from what our stated goal is, right? You end up with, like, the meme, right? Like, Democrats want half of all CEOs to be women, right? Like that whole meme. We don't want that, right? Like, that's not what we want. What we want is for the corporations to do the things that we want. It doesn't matter as much why, right? I don't care if Zoom cares about the rights of people. I care how it goes about doing its business. I want it to react to us, exactly. Like, that is the thing, is keeping your eye on what is your actual desired outcome from this interaction.
To speak out saying, no, we're not going to use your chat conversations for training anything. We just want to use data that we collect to improve the services at Zoom and not to train our own large language model on your data. They basically wanted to use the generative AI for good, as they say, for instance, with tools that summarize meetings if users request it, which, is a pretty handy use of Zoom. If I get on a Zoom call with you, we have an hour-long conversation, and Zoom can send me back a description of the conversation that we had with bullet points, that's helpful to me. But if Zoom takes that data and uses it to train their own large language models, now there's potentially proprietary information trained into Zoom. They are telling us that they will not do that without our explicit permission. It's just very interesting how something from March all kind of bubbled up now in August. Speaking of Zoom, here's a little tip. If you're ever on Zoom and you need to enter your password into a website somewhere, make sure you mute your microphone. There's a new AI out there that can identify passwords by sounds of keys being pressed. They specifically even mention Zoom. Tapping it.
Now, one of the things, and I don't know if it's going to get in here, but it had to do, and I could be wrong, but it was that it was a particular keyboard. I don't know if that is, like, how important that is to the process or anything else, but it kind of makes sense because, like, the distance to typing, and I wonder, like, because I'm not a conventional typer, I'm not a typist. I type, like I look at the keyboard when I'm typing and things like that. So I don't know if that would have any effect on it at all, but it's an interesting and it's a logical outcome. We need to regulate corporations thoroughly before they have a better sense of using AI. Sure. I expect the rise of general artificial intelligence before we thoroughly regulate corporations. I just think that the problem is too big and our political will too small. I agree with you. I would love it. It'd be great. But I don't find it plausible. You know what I mean?
A computer password while chatting over Zoom could open the door to a cyber attack. A study revealed artificial intelligence can work out which keys are being pressed by eavesdropping on the sound of the typing, and it can do it with more than 90% accuracy. So again, if you are going to enter a password while on a call with somebody, mute your microphone. Also in AI news this week, Google now has an AI-powered grammar checker. It's real simple to use. If you go to Google and you type a...
And there's another thing is like, I know y'all kids love the clacky keyboards, right? But maybe the clacky keyboards are part of the problem. Heard about this keystroke audio software, but I'm unsure how. It's like... what I would like to point out is the headline to that article says, study suggests. So... take it with a grain of salt. I think that more things, but it's not unreasonable if you think about it. Like it's an audio plus time equals thing, right? So I can see how it would work. It's not unreasonable to me.
A sentence like, where am I going? And then type grammar check and do a search, you'll see it actually fixed my grammar here. And it allows me to copy the fixed grammar. The tool itself is powered by artificial intelligence, although it might not always be accurate, especially if you ask it to review a phrase or fragment instead of an entire sentence. These tools have been in Gmail and Google Drive, like Google Docs, for a while now, but now you've got it in search as well. This week, ChatGPT also expanded the custom instructions feature and made it available for free users. So if you go to ChatGPT, come down to these three dots in the bottom left corner here, click on custom instructions, and you can add some additional context that ChatGPT will remember every time you write prompts in the future. ChatGPT also finally rolled out these suggestion boxes. So as you are writing prompts, it will actually give you suggestions of potential next prompts that you can use. In other OpenAI news, OpenAI launched a web crawler called GPT Bot. And basically what this is a web crawler designed to crawl all the websites on the internet to gather information from them. Now, if you've used ChatGPT already, you have probably encountered the fact that it is only trained with data through 2021. Well, it sounds like GPT-5, they want to make it constantly updating and constantly training on new data. In order to do that, it needs to create little bots that go around and scrape the web and constantly bring in new information. It's the same way Google's search engine works. Google's search engine has little bots that go and scrape the web. Whenever websites add new information, it finds that information, pulls it back into Google's database, and makes it searchable for you. Well,
so one of the things, because we covered this, and he might get to it, but I want to get this idea out there. One of the things that you can do, and OpenAI right there on their website tells you how to do it, is that you can opt out as a website from having your information crawled by their bot. If you look at that in the context of the way that, like he's saying, Google does their thing, if you were to opt out of having Google crawl your website, then your website would not be featured on Google. making it more difficult for people to find it, use the information that's there, whatever it is. And I wonder how that is going to play out with GPT-5, going forward, whatever. How not allowing them, that unintended consequences of doing that. If, for instance, like, let's say for argument's sake, that GPT-5 becomes a search competitor for Google, like in the same way that I generally use Bard now, because it enhances my Googling experience rather than, limits it. If you were to have that, but you opted out, then people might not be directed to your website, if looking for a product. Yeah. No. And that, like, it should be an opt-in, of course, like, but we're talking about oughts and ises, and we have to deal with the ises, not the oughts. But I'm just wondering how that's going to affect people in the future. Guess we'll find out.
Well, GPT-5 wants to have that same functionality as a way to constantly update GPT-5 with new information. They are, however, allowing websites to opt out. So if you do not want your website to be scraped by GPT-5, you don't want any of the information that you share to be included in the training in the future, there will be a command that you can put inside of your website to disallow the GPT bot from scraping that information. And following along on that same thread there, the New York Times just updated their terms of service to prevent AI from scraping its content. The content includes, but is not limited to, text, photographs, images, illustrations, designs, audio clips, video clips, look and feel, and metadata, including the party credited as the provider of the content. This updated terms of service also prohibits website crawlers, which let pages get indexed for search results, from using content to train LLMs or AI systems. This is interesting to me, and I'm going to inject a little bit of an opinion here. Sites like the New York Times benefit heavily from web crawlers scraping their site, grabbing their news, and then putting them on sites like Google, Bing, Yahoo, all of the various search engines. Like, if Google didn't rank their content anymore, it would be absolutely disastrous for their company. Yet, if Google wants to scrape their content for creating a better user interface and a better user experience through AI, they're saying, no, you can't do that. If Google does move more and more towards an AI-based model where it is more chat-based, similar to what we're seeing with Bing Chat, companies like the New York Times who are saying, you can't use our data in AI anymore, are they just going to be excluded from the results even when people are just searching? I don't know. Some of these decisions from companies.
So, another thing pops to mind. Let's see if I could parapredict this part of it. The two things. One, bias in reporting, right? Like, the idea that a company like Breitbart, that a company like Drudge Report might not opt out, increases the frequency in which that information might appear in the data set. And that even if reporting on the same topic might present it with an additional bias, that is a concern to watch out for. It already happens, of course, with paywalling of the New York Times, Washington Post, what have you, but very little, if any, of that appears on more right-wing sites, right? And then the other aspect is how, like, Google and OpenAI have both initiated different programs to work with journalists in using their AI tools and the accumulation of news and things like that. They could already be preparing for something like this. and Google News or whatever OpenAI's news thing would be, could be in the future. Like that they are going to directly go up against old standards like the New York Times and the Washington Post, and won't care that they are not letting them scrape their data. If I thought of it, someone in a position to actually do something with that information very likely also thought of it.
Companies like the New York Times, in my opinion, are very short-sighted, because this could be the future of search. This could be the way that people find their information in the future. And if you're saying we're opting out of it, Google might say, fine, we're not showing your stuff anymore. And I don't really know how many people are still buying the New York Times in print, but I have a feeling it's going down year over year. You really want to eliminate the internet traffic you're getting as well? I don't know. Just throwing some thoughts out there around this. Also this week, Anthropic launched an...
And then you have the, imagine opting out of Google, that kind of, exactly. The next step, what's the next step? So Google News does its thing, blah, 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 and the value of the New York Times continues to go down and down and down because of its shrinking user base and like that. So then Google buys the New York Times. Now they can use the New York Times, which has a certain amount of credibility and prestige attached to that nameplate, and Google News becomes, the New York Times, right? Like, that is not an unreasonable series of steps that could occur. What up, Lenny? Many websites do. It's easy to add a bot instruction file. Yeah.
Improved version of its entry-level LLM. So Claude 2 basically this week got some fairly marginal improvements. It saw gains in areas such as math, coding, reasoning, and safety. In internal testing, the new version of Claude scored 58.7% on a coding benchmark compared to the previous version, which scored a 52.8%. And it scored 86.7 on a set of math questions over 80.9% on the previous version. So in my opinion, fairly marginal improvements to Claude, but it just shows that it's getting better and better. Stability AI just announced a new large language model called Stable Code, which is a model that is fine-tuned towards coding. It appears to be hosted on Hugging Face right now, so if you want to go test Stable Code, it does appear to be available for both use in the cloud, and the files are available if you choose to install it locally. Stability AI also this week announced Japanese Stable LM, which is the best performing openly available language model created for Japanese speakers. This one is also available over on Hugging Face. If you come to the Stability AI blog, click on the name of the language model here, you can open it and use it directly on Hugging Face and download the files and install it locally if you know what you're doing. The company 11 Labs made a couple big deals this week. First, they partnered up with DID, the company where you can upload still images, add some text, and it will make it look like the people are speaking. We've seen all sorts of memes from the world of Harry Potter, Star Wars, and of course Wes Anderson films, all using DID to generate those images. Well, now it is going to directly integrate with 11 Labs, so you can even use your own voice or voices that you trained inside.
Another example of how you can how you could like interact with like the VTuber space, right? And whatever you can think of that could be related to that. Like I could create an AI somehow. It like, don't ask me how, but I see a process wherein I could have like the best or the whatever idealized version of myself down here in this corner, and that image, I talk, it's converted and then it's expressed by that avatar rather than by me. Within the next, what do you think, 6 months? You're going to see something like that in the streaming space? Tops? And that, I'm talking with like live voice. There could be some kind of delay, but even all the like the glasses that did the the transcription, the live transcription as it was happening, went from being 10 seconds down to like fractions of a second or like a second tops. So, and based on the delay between chat and whatever's going on and how I would have to, respond to that, I don't see any reason why you won't have something like that in the streaming space within the next 6 months. It sounds reasonable to me.
Side of the DID models. 11 Labs also partnered with InWorld, which I talked about in last Friday's news video. InWorld is a company that is creating chat-based NPCs for video games. So you can walk up to a character in a video game, have a conversation with that character, and all of the audio that the character generates back to you is generated in real time using AI. The voices have left a little bit to be desired so far, but now because 11 Labs is working with InWorld, we're going to get much, much, much more realistic voices from those in-game characters. This week,
and I'll just do this because we're here.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain, time to die.
That's 11 Labs. That's their product. That's your boy.
Week it came out that Amazon has reported
I'm looking forward to it. Like, when I played it for the wife, she was like, it blew her mind. Like, that, because that's where we're at, right? Like, I see such even potential for my own use. For those of you who discovered me once I started doing AI, like, there was a point in the evolution of this stream where I read Whitman, right? Like, because there was a particular piece of Whitman that I wanted to read and I felt that there was value in it. And so I sat here and I read Whitman to chat. Like, there's a very early version of the stream. And the idea that I can do that with my own voice and not have to, not have to, like, put strain on my voice. Like, one of the things that some people do, especially like reading articles, is they will use whatever the automated thing is on a particular website, or you can get them to read the article to to chat while you're doing the thing, and then you add your own commentary on that. I can do it in my voice. That's not unreasonable. That is here. That is now, right? Even if it's just a simple, I copy a web page and I put it in the thing, and like that, it is still it's totally within reach. And like, it would be one of those things, as a streamer, you are expending your time and effort and getting back some type of financial return, based on whatever your particular thing is. So if it cost, I don't know what it costs for 11 Labs, but let's say for argument's sake it costs $10 a month, then that would just be something I would have to figure into that sub goal, right? Like if I want these features and I need it to pay for itself, I need 4 subs a month. So the 11 Labs feature is 4 subs a month, and this, and then that, and you figure all that stuff in, and then you can set yourself that as a goal for what it means to have your stream be self-sustaining with those tools. And then those tools should bring something to the table to make them worth investing in. For me, like, what I've done with Leonardo is worth an investment in Leonardo. Honestly, something really cute for AI voice stuff is to train AI on your own voice for your kids, like for people whose parents die early. That is something. Another idea is that, like, I have 2 grandkids. One lives locally, one lives somewhere else. And the idea of being able to record children's books in my voice, so that I can read to my grandson in another state. That is a really cool idea, like, thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, and then, like, we are very close to a point where no one ever has to feel that way again.
Testing generative AI tools for sellers. If you remember the video that I did a few weeks ago about Shopify, where it will generate descriptions of the products for you just based on a simple description that you give it, it sounds like Amazon's going to be adding that same functionality for Amazon sellers, where they could go in, plug in a very brief description, and let Amazon's AI generate a much more fleshed out, better selling description for you. This week, the White House also ordered a ban on certain US tech investments in China. They don't want US investors to invest in companies that deal in semiconductors and microelectronics, quantum information technologies, and certain artificial intelligence systems. There's an absolutely amazing video from Johnny Harris called "We're Heading into a New Cold War," which really breaks down what is going on here on the larger scale. I highly recommend watching it. I'll link it up in the comments below. But basically, the US is worried about capital and expertise helping China develop technologies that can support its military modernization and undermine US national security. They basically want the US to be the most advanced technological country, and they don't want us to help China get more advanced with their technology. Again, just watch the Johnny Harris video. It'll break it down much better than I will. Here's an interesting random article that came out of New Zealand.
One of the things, growing up in the Cold War, there was trade between the USSR and the United States. It was just very, very limited, for a variety of reasons, like leveraging and everything. Again, like, I'm talking about what is, I'm not talking about what I would like, right? So we're just talking about what is. The situation between the United States and China is significantly different. We have a tremendous amount of trade relations with China in the United States, and therefore, like this, the implication of a new Cold War, like Cold War II, implies that it's similar to the previous Cold War between the US and the USSR, and it's not going to be like that. Like, there's a variety of reasons why it's just not going to be like that, and people have way too, especially in the halls of power, have way too much attachment to what has come before and treating past as prologue. Like, part of the war, the various Gulf wars against Iraq, were related to the fact that the United States lost the war in Vietnam. Like, this is a fucking problem, right? Like, you need to put that shit down, because it's going to affect how you appreciate the current situation. And if you don't appreciate the current situation in its current context, you're going to make mistakes. There is very little that is similar between Vietnam and Iraq in regards to the war, how it played out, any of that. There are so many different factors that are involved there that having that be your relationship, you're gonna fuck up. And relating a new Cold War with China to the original Cold War with the USSR, you're going to fuck up. The only similarity is that the word communism comes up. That is about it. And under the current context of, like, just all the things, it's like, we need to be able to work together. I would prefer if we had multipolar AI advancement. There will be tremendous benefits in that regard. I also need it not to be militarized, which is a problem all the way around also. But multipolar AI advancement is going to be better for us than like just the United States being the thing. It's like,
In this week, a company called Pack and Save created the Savvy Meal Bot, which is supposed to help shoppers do their meal planning. However,
okay, I saw this article and I blew past it because it's another example of, like, the lawyer who used ChatGPT to do his thing. Or, do you know how many times we barely touched on it, but there was a woman who allegedly received a phone call from someone pretending to be her daughter, and they used the vocal app or some vocal thing in order to simulate her daughter and pretend that she was kidnapped, allegedly. Like, every so often that same story gets regurgitated. You want to talk about regurgitation? Regurgitated by the media, like, as indicative of something. It was an event that happened one time, allegedly, and we're still doing the same thing with it. We are still doing the same thing with the lawyer, right? Like, we're still doing the same thing. Hey!
AI is ultimately a mirror, and it will reflect back exactly who we are.
Thank you for the support, homie. I appreciate you. Again, I can't stress this enough, right? You want to know about the cyber, you want to know about cyber crime, you want to join a community that deals with programming, ethical hacking, all that good stuff. Hold on. I'm incompetent. Doo-da, doo-da. The homie computer. I don't want people to use AI to take advantage of me. That is fair. I don't want to be taken advantage of at all. I think there's a lot of distance in between where we are now and that point.
it was recommending customer recipes.
Oh yeah, this was the point. This is a one-off, and it is going to be used to represent something I am literally out here trying to bring, like, I am like AI Jesus, but not the other one, but like an actual flesh and blood human. I am trying to guide you all into the ethical, plentiful AI future. Like, that is, I'm not going to sell you out. I am going to bring you into the light. That is my goal.
For chlorine gas.
A while back, I was doing a series on TikTok about various AI and media. It lasted 5 or 6 entries before I got bored because everything looked into would just end up being Skynet or The Matrix, or like there ain't much in between that. Disagree. And I feel like okay, we got to figure out how we're going to do movie nights in the Discord, because I have such wonderful sights to show you.
Gas, poison bread sandwiches, and mosquito repellent roast potatoes. Among some of the other delicious recommendations, an Oreo vegetable stir fry. So I think this bot might need a little bit more training, and hopefully nobody actually tried the poison bread sandwich. Now, right before I hit record on this video, I got this email to my inbox from Runway ML that we can now generate longer generations in Gen 2. Now, if you remember when I talked about Gen 2 in the past, I talked about how you can create a video, take the last frame from the video, and then set that as the first frame of your next video, and then start your generation that way. And then you could take the last frame of that video and set it as your first frame of your next video, and you can now generate longer videos by stringing these together. I also mentioned that it would probably be a smart idea for Gen 2 to just build that into their system. Well, they did it now. It says, now you can extend generations in Gen 2. After you generate your initial output, just select the extend button to generate another 4 seconds of your video. You can do it up to a maximum of 16 seconds. So we have now hit a point where with a single image prompt, we can generate 16-second videos from one image prompt. A few days ago, we were only able to do 4 seconds. So if I jump into the Runway app and I click on image to video, let's go ahead and upload.
And then, like, maybe he'll get to this, but now you just take the last image of the 16 seconds and use it to start the next 16 seconds. So, but seriously, a 4 times jump. We went from 4-second to 16-second video generation. Are you kidding me? In weeks? Weeks. Real boiled down to, I noticed my scripts would end up being all right. This one's about slave rebellion. This one's Ultron saving humans by killing them. This one's robots who don't want to die and just in a circle with a few outliers. Anyway, if you want, I can link you some of the things for after stream if you're curious. Absolutely. Yes, one of the reason that AI stories tend to play out the way that they do is because they are never stories about AI. They are stories about human condition. And they are using the AI as either a protagonist or antagonist, hero or villain, in order to tell a story about the human condition. So that is why a lot of stories are just, it's like Game of Thrones, but in space, right? Like, because of humans, how humans tell stories, and that in spite of people's thoughts to the contrary, there is very little originality that actually occurs in creating stories. Like, I would say that most, if not all, stories have already been told, and we are just retelling them in slightly different ways.
This image that I was messing with earlier for wire stock, toss it in here, click generate, let's see what it does with it. We get this 4-second video here, but you'll notice up at the top, I now have a button that says extend 4 seconds. Let's go ahead and click that and see if we can now have an 8-second video. And now we have an 8-second version of the video where it just gets even crazier and crazier as the time goes on. So pretty cool. We can now generate up to 16-second videos, and then I don't see why, if you wanted to, you couldn't just take that 16-second video, grab the last frame of that, and continue the process to make even longer videos. But it's really cool that Runway ML just added that into the mix now as well. Now, one last thing I want to mention before I wrap this one up is that next week, August 16th and 17th, there's an event in Los Angeles called the Artificial Conference. I'll be hosting and participating in panels at that event and hanging out along with a lot of other really smart people in the AI world. We're going to be talking about AI for creators. We're going to be talking about ethical and legal implications of AI. It's going to be a really fascinating and really, really fun event. It's going to be a nerd out fest where a bunch of us who all nerd out around AI get together and hang out and nerd out together. You can find details about it over at artificialconference.com. And there's a tweet that I'll link to below where you can actually win free tickets to the event by just simply liking and sharing the tweet. So I'll make sure that's linked up below. Just wanted to point that out because I am going to be there. I am looking forward to it. And I'm hoping some people that watch these videos turn up and hang out with us. It should be a really, really fun time. That's all I got for you today. Don't forget to check out futuretools.io where I curate all the latest coolest AI tools that I come across.
And that is like, you know, I wish we lived in the alternate United States where things like this AI and these conferences and everything else were occurring at the same time we had universally available high-speed rail, so I could just go to these things, you know. That would be nice. We do not. All right now. Switching it over. Checking the thing. Looking in chat. And we're waiting. Waiting. What up, Magic? All right, just waiting to see if Endless is available. I bookmark anything on Twitter. Well, you'll always be Twitter to me. Okay, yeah, we got a little something we can look at here. So more on that, NVIDIA's Omniverse 3D collaboration platform that enables the creation of massive virtual worlds with photorealistic graphics and now AI-generated content. Key new capabilities: integration with generative AI like Adobe Firefly to enhance creation workflows, expanded ecosystems, connection through OpenUSD, we talked about in the video, new developer tools and templates for building apps and experiences, semantic search capability with deep search to find 3D assets easily, optimizations for photorealistic real-time rendering and path tracing with AI accelerated denoising powered by the new RTX GPUs, XR capabilities native to the platform so you can deploy on AR VR headsets, upgrades to core apps like Omniverse Audio to Face and USD Composer, graphics delivery network to performantly serve your 3D experience around the world, support for new workflows across individual use cases like digital twins. The ability to offsite your work is also going to be a tremendous asset. I wish I could close this. But yeah, like, again, I think there's going to be this tremendous capability for smaller creators to create video games that are, again, indie, but like indie has its own connotation to it, right? Like low res. Okay, he's there. So he'll be along in a second. Indie, like, a bunch of it leans into its retro aspect, right? Like, a lot of indie games tend to fall into that, like, 8-bit, 16-bit, like, a large pixel kind of thing. And there is something to that, right? Like that aesthetic is appreciated by some people, so you're going to be able to take advantage of that particular market. But imagine if your indie game looked like something closer to, at least, a AAA title, right? You were able to use assets from Unreal Engine. Your NPCs had, better dialogue. I think that there's going to be a tremendous opportunity for people to operate within that space. Now, no, I don't even see like a now, because Anarchist Tech Support presented us with that website that already does smaller indie games in that $20 to $30 range. I think that people will take advantage. Why, like, yes, you're going to have something like a Baldur's Gate 3, which people are like, I got to have the Baldur's Gate 3. But what if you had the Baldur's Gate experience, but without the Baldur's Gate name attached to it? What would you be willing to pay for that? And like, what did Baldur's Gate cost? I don't know. I'm going to assume that one of the iterations of Baldur's Gate, whether it was like the Ultra Deluxe, Omega, whatever level, came in somewhere in the neighborhood of like $100. So if I could buy 3 games that aren't even quite there, let's be generous and say they're not quite at that level of whatever Baldur's Gate is giving people, but I can get 3 of them for $30 each. Now I have 3 different games and $10. Okay, $60. So two games for the price of 1. And that is why I think there's going to be an opportunity for people to do that. As long as they can use these tools, get that some level of quality out of it that matches the quality of the storytelling that they are trying to execute, I don't see any reason why not. And you'll be able to avoid all these, these big, these big brand names. Your Acclaim. Is Acclaim even a thing anymore? Activision and Microsoft Studios and everything else. And you are going to be able to do more with less. Yeah, and I don't know that that they are going to be necessary, right? Like the reason that you need the big name company is because you need that distribution network. And you don't need that anymore. All right, Endless is in the thing. Or you might not need that anymore. Like, I see the pieces there. Well, we'll see if it actually comes together. So we want to go here. And I need to go here. And I need to go here. And then I need this and make sure that's working. And that is working. And then bring in Endless. And we'll see if Endless is there yet. Ooh, everything is janky.
Okay, there you go. Okay. I didn't know if you were in here yet. All right, let me set my situation up.
Yo.
Check. You still hear me?
I can still hear you.
Cool. Let me